All right, everybody. This is Mr. Anderson, True Crypto 28 from Twitter. Hopefully everyone's good. This video is just an intro to a new indicator that I have here, which is called True Vibration, or at least at the moment it's called True Vibration. Let's see if we change the name or not. But that's what we're going with. Basically, this is the gist of the indicator here. There's more lines involved. It probably looks crazy enough as is to your eyes. And I'll break it down a little bit for some people. I'm not going to go too in depth because I actually want this to be a pretty short video, but I got a lot of requests after I made a tweet for people asking me to make a video on it. I have a lot of people that have requested that individually, so we can take a close look at it. And the way it came about, just kind of quickly understand these. I've made a lot of indicators in the past. And usually what I do is I make a tool. And this is also a tool, which I'll explain, but I like to make a tool that I'll use as part of a trade. And then the other indicators that I've made have been intended to be part of a teaching process, right? So I do obviously have maybe for those that don't know, I do a lot of teaching to try to teach people to trade, which is a very difficult thing to learn. I was a slow learner myself, but ultimately I'd go through a very deep process to try to explain how to trade and to ultimately get people to that level of comprehension that will help them to achieve that. But in that process, I do have some indicators that I've made that were also made for the purpose of teaching. Wow, say that 5 times fast. But the point is, that was always the idea. And the reason for that is because in trading, and the way I trade, it's not exactly easy to code. I've never found a way to code it myself because I like to utilize a lot of SMI. Originally, where I really got good in trading when I finally became good after many years, it was SMI is one of the indicators that really was a breakthrough for me, particularly just because I felt like I could comprehend it. It's not an easy indicator to learn by any stretch of the imagination, but once you do master it, and really if you master any tool specifically or any type of trading, you're going to do pretty well. But in this case, once I did master it, I was able to become a productive trader, and that built on that over the years. The reason I bring it up, though, is that SMI, slow stochastic that I use a lot more now than SMI, RSI, which I absolutely love. 99% of people have no clue how to use RSI. But all of those are indicators that are pretty intricate. And you can utilize your eye and you can learn how to use them quite well. But to code with them is very difficult. I'll give you an idea and understand. This is a brief explanation. I didn't even mean to go down this path, but might as well share the experiences. And with RSI, one of the things I actually love about RSI is that you get a lot of double signals, that I call them double signals at least, where if you understand how to read RSI properly, you'll end up getting a point in time where you can say, all right, well, here is my long, and I'm basing the long based off this element of RSI. And then if that should fail, it gives me a short, right? So I'm willing to flip to the other side. You might think like that's always the way. It's not the case, right? You might say, for instance, in this situation, if we broke out long and then broke out short, there was a failure pattern, went short. Yeah, a lot of times that's good basic price action analysis that will tell you like to code the other way on a low time frame. But it's not necessarily a long-term short based on that. And you can do that often if you find the right place to do it with RSI. So because of that, I never really had a way to code that. So long story short, I ended up getting with a dev, a very talented guy who knows how to code some things. And if he doesn't know how to code, he wants to find out how to do it, which is awesome. So I have to give him a lot of credit. But the point is that I began to speak to him and say, look, I want to build a tool because I want to get into some interactive trading sessions with people and try to get them more in my mind of how I'm trading and really help people. It's kind of the idea because you just can't sit on my shoulder, right? There's no way. I'm not saying anyone wants to do that. I'm just making a point that live interactive trading, I don't mind doing it. I'll jump on. Let's do an hour or two, etc. But in reality, a lot of times, like, okay, buy here. 4 days later, the price is up here. In the meantime, it's pretty boring to figure out what was I doing during that trade, right? It's like, okay, I just bought it. Let's play Nintendo, while we're live streaming. It's not something I'm into, right? I'm not anyone that is. God bless you. I'm just saying that to me, that would be pretty boring live lessons to go over. We could talk about past scenarios, which is fine. I believe that is helpful. But as far as being skin in the game, let's show it live, let's see what we're doing, unless I'm getting down on a 1 minute chart, which is not really my cup of tea to begin with, it's something to where I don't see a significant benefit in doing it. So I wanted to create something that was going to allow people to sort of get into my mindset of what I'm looking to do. And I had to go about it a lot of different ways. So with this particular developer, I said, look, here's what I want to do. And I explained that I need to create an indicator that's going to allow me to do it. So I went through that process and I did it so that I didn't have so much of the binary choices that RSI gives you where you have to flip back and forth. Now, of course, that's trading, so you can help yourself with the TA to do that anyway. But long story short is that anything I said to this guy, he said, let's make it happen. And ultimately we did. So that was great. And it was a long process, but here we are. And for the most part, it's done except for doing things like alerts, which I'll look to add down the road. And at the moment, just have to do some aesthetic things. But we don't have to get too deep. Ultimately, I know what's going to be a favorite of people is something like this. This little segment that you're looking at right here is a reversal. So that's basically a pivot buy, right? When you see that green, not always, right? And I'll explain that so that people understand that we're always going to follow the rules very specifically. They're extremely easy to follow. I'm not going to get into them right now because that's going to turn this into an hour or two instead of a few minutes, which is what I prefer. So the intro was probably the longest part of that, and then I'll just roll through some charts. And then you'll get it the other way around where you'll see the red version of that on top, which is basically going to be a pivot top ultimately. So obviously in this case, you're going long in that scenario. But also some of the other obvious scenarios are the colors, right? So when you see red, we're talking about likely trending to the downside. And by the way, you can pull information from this. Like if you're in that long of a bearish trend, this is daily time frame. Yes, it was correct in that we were making lower highs. Good job. But the fact that price didn't want to drop also gave you some intel as well that, hey, despite being in this bearish segment for oh so long, you weren't able to drop the price. And then ultimately that led to something much more bullish. But we'll get into those conversations later as well. There's also going to be, I'm only showing a few of these levels that you're looking at. These are all different indicators that you're looking at as well, which I won't get into today, but all of them have significant relevance. I might talk about a couple of them. And then I'll go to another page here where we can also split it up because I know it can get messy. So if you see all of them here, you do not have to look at all of these. The only reason I'm showing it to you like this at the moment is just so that it's a little bit easier for me to explain the rest of what's going to go on here. But you can see, again, green should be trending up, right? Red should be trending down. Green again should be trending up. And then you'll also probably notice these things that are sticking out here, which are these big triangles. Again, aesthetically, I haven't come up with any ideas to make this super attractive, but what you're seeing in these situations is that's going to be times where you basically are seeing a boost, right? So that's a bullish boost. And in that scenario, what that would mean to me is that you basically need the structure to change, or else you're highly likely to see a much larger move, meaning not just the standard moves, but the larger bursts are going to occur in that situation. As you see here again, same scenario. This is to the downside, burst to the downside. These are to the upside, burst to the upside. This is to the upside again, burst to the upside. I'll show more examples on another page. What else can you do? You'll see divergences in place here, right? So you can set divergences to this as well. You can turn that on. You can turn that off. It's going to be pretty easy to go through. I'm going to run through some of these again, as I mentioned. The other thing is that you can change the view of this, right? So I know you guys don't even know what this is, but let's just say this purple is a leading indicator. The blue versus the red are going to be two that are important. If you have blue rising above the red, bullish, right? So when we have bullish action in that situation, when you have it falling, more bearish, right? Until it reclaims again, reclaims here, guess what? We're going up again, etc. Now this is a simplified version, of course. There's more to it than this, but I'm just showing you these two lines just as an example. And you can see they work pretty damn well, just in and of themselves, right? If you want to go back to other times in history, same scenario, blue over red, things are looking damn up. And not only that, let's look at the boost again. So you get those boosts. Again, the bears better take structure back. If not, you're looking at these burst up ultimately over and over again. So these are going to be fan favorites for sure. I mean, there's no question about it. Doesn't mean they're going to work every time. Of course not. But it does give you good insight to let you know that, hey, the structure better break. And if not, you're going to be getting involved. I won't get too specific into that, but I just wanted to give you some understanding. Again, normally this would be one indicator. I've separated it just for the view right now. And I may recommend for people to add the indicator twice on their screen as well, so that they can have a clearer view if they feel they need it, right? Because it can get a little bit messy. I'm the first to admit that, but there's a lot of relevant information in there. So just to kind of go through some elements here to make things easy, I will show you this. This is basically a 2-hour chart, but all I'm doing here is when you see these circles, this is where you're seeing the pivots, right? So these are pivot shorts, right? Every one of these is a pivot short. We're looking at YFI. It's a very popular trader in the crypto space recently. And all I'm showing you is that on this time frame, these are what your pivot shorts were. You had it right there. That's a pivot short. You had it right there. That's a pivot short. These are the only qualifying ones on the screen. I didn't skip any at all right there. This one was probably a break even. I mean, he gave you a little nice move. I mean, I guess technically it happened at 18,764. Price did drop all the way down to 17,488. So I probably not a break even, but let's just say you got caught with that candle and that was a break even. I don't care. Call it a loss too. I'm not trying to act like these things are perfect. They're not. But you can see pretty clearly that it does a pretty damn good job at finding these pivot shorts, right? These are what I would call a pivot short. And then, of course, the other element that you'll see that we talked about already is the burst function. I'll keep pointing that out just so you see. There's the trending function that I mentioned. You can also implement a multi-time frame element that's going to make it much sharper. You can also take these signals to a lower time frame as well, which I'll teach as well, which can also sharpen things up. It can also confuse the hell out of you, by the way, if you don't know what you're doing. So be careful, because everyone wants to live on the 5 minutes. We understand that, and that's where the most chop is. But the point is I will show you that there are ways to actually make this far more effective, believe it or not. But you can see here, pretty damn effective just as the way it is, as it stands here, in giving you short, 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 not so great, even though it was $1,500 lower, short, massive short, etc. Right? And that's any time frame, any asset. It doesn't matter. Anything with a chart. All right, what is this? Daily. We don't need that. This is just a daily view of Bitcoin. All I'm doing here is I'm just showing you the burst function here. All right, so when things are downtrending, it's doing its job, right? You're seeing this burst function. These are red boxes that I'm showing you down here, right here. Just focus. You notice that stays in place until you get this point here. Now, this legged up first, just so you have an understanding before you got that, and then finally topped out. So it's not like I'm taking credit for any of these here, but ultimately the bear side during the downtrend, which is really what you wanted to point out to you, it was doing a great job, and it led to huge dump, right? Finally, you regroup a little bit, you start seeing a series of them on the upside, and sure enough, what does that mean? You're flying. That's basic reality of what it is. Switch back again, you see the reds down here, same situation again, deep dark pullback, another big ass move to the upside, and then we got right before the coronavirus, gigantic dump, same thing even on the daily scale. By the way, the 4 hour, if I showed you that, I might as well show you because I know everyone's going to wonder. Let's box that real quick. On the lower time frames, you're going to get many more signals, right? And it's going to be a clearer view of that destruction also. You see the red coming in right there. That's all here. Red, 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 red. Red, 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 red. And then the massive dump out, etc. So that's that. I'm literally going to continue to just fly through because I'm just showing you some of the functionality. Also to show you again that it doesn't matter what asset you're looking at, any asset, any time frame, etc. As it should be. Green burst, that's positive ultimately, right? I don't know if I went and identified any pivot areas here. If I didn't, no worries. But gold, you can see when things are moving along and when they're bursting along, we got it pretty well. At least the indicator does a good job with that. It's not going to give you everything. Can your eye beat this? Yes, my eye can beat the indicator, of course. But the indicator is going to be quicker in that regard because I can scan a lot quicker as well. But yeah, you can TA yourself to a higher level than the indicator. But even if you have solid TA, then this is a tool. Remember, I want to build a tool that traders can use effectively to help themselves and to help them recognize and identify structure in the scenario. And obviously the markets want to chop you up on all time frames, and that's their goal. So this gives a little clarity and help for traders. Okay. All right, so back a little more simplified breakdown here of what we can do when we turn on some of our features, right? Excuse me, I'm actually getting a little call here. I got to end this. Okay, sorry about that. So basically, if we want to turn on the divergence feature like this, you can kind of see what comes into play. Pretty simple. Bull divergence comes into play right there. Good job. A little bit of a hidden bear shows up, followed by a regular bear. A little bit of a dump down, etc. Same thing. You can turn these on if you want, or if you don't. That's completely up to you. But it's another helpful key that can come into the play. You can see that we will get these situations here as well where you say, okay, well, I have a little bit of a warning signal. I'll explain that. There's a very specific method to that kind of explains like which ones you take, which ones you don't, etc. But it's crystal clear stuff. Back to any asset. Here we go. S&P. red burst, aside from the red trending, red burst means strong, right? Not just down, but strongly down, etc. This is a 4-hour that we're looking at. Wouldn't matter what time frame we're looking at. Take some time to recover. You don't start to see this burst again until you get back in this area. And ultimately, remember, the key with this is that it better break structure, or else you're going to continue to see that upside. That whenever you see this, you better see it break a structure. And it doesn't happen, so sure enough, it's going to go again. And that's why you end up seeing this burst come back again. Same situation. And there's ways to identify this for sure, just so that everyone understands. Not to mention the fact that what I'm not showing you here is that you do have also included this reversal signal right there, right? So you have that. So you're looking for a break of structure. It doesn't happen. You end up getting that reversal signal that gives you the long. We'll just move along. Oh, ripple, right? Okay, so if you get a turd, right, which is what this is, one of the worst charts ever in history. People hate me because I've been ranking on Ripple since back in the day. Literally, I was ranking on Ripple when it was up here. But aside from that, just talking about how this is the greatest shorting exercise you can imagine. All this shows you is daily scale. Remember, if I go to a lower scale, I'm going to get all kinds of signals on this, right? So clear elements of the red burst, right, showing that there is burst of bearishness here. So you see that going down again. I think you probably noticed this thing kicks ass in terms of the bursting function. It's pretty clear on that. And again, they will not be perfect, and it's not automatic free money. It's not going to print you money. It's not a money tree. But I'm just showing the bursting option works pretty damn well. And again, I can teach people to utilize it more effectively so that you're not putting yourself in a position thinking, hey, I'm going to go all in and crush it. But the other side of that is the pivot, right? So these are going to be pivot shorts, and that's what these circles are. I'll show you just so you have an understanding. The aesthetically, again, normally you're not going to be so zoomed out, but there's the signal right there. And you get it there, and you get it there, and you get it there, and you get it again here. Now, I will tell you, and you get it here. Now, there are other signals here, right? I mean, that's kind of why you see this level in here. One of these levels basically is going to tell us to also look for some of these additional ones. And you would have had a signal here, even here, because that's actually mislabeled. That will happen at times. You would have one here. You would have had one here, in my opinion. I'll explain that. Again, you guys can use this tool the way you'd like, but I'll teach you the things that I've noticed. And I want to make it so that people can get together, talk about the functionality, talk about the different ways to utilize it. When you start playing with all these different indicators that are involved down here, you'll see that you can actually utilize divergence on each one and look at higher time frame stuff and longer time frame things. You can look at things on a weekly scale if you want to look at some bigger trending type of things, and it's very helpful. But beautiful thing is that when you get into a trend like this, it's just going to give you gift after gift after gift, right? So you're patiently waiting, you get it. Something like a ripple, you set an alert, and every time it comes up, you're a pretty happy guy, right? And you can see how effective each and every one. I marked every one of them just so you guys have an understanding. And that's a daily time frame. If I go to a 4 hour, it's going to be more. All right, Link. Everyone loved Link. You know, how well it did. Just kind of quick look into the bursting function. I won't go too deep into this, but same thing. You see the greens. You even see the red when it got serious down there. Recovered a little bit. Let's go green again. This is daily scale. Daily scale, getting that kind of bursting. That just shows you the power that was ongoing. Same situation again. That just shows you that things are all lined up on good old Link during that timeline. And then it comes off and it tells you that there's time to relax, right? So ultimately, there's a lot of ways that you can get into this specifically, but I'm not breaking it down all that much. And then, of course, you start to see that bearishness come into play as well. You weren't able to break structure, so again, you're going to have some problems, and that's why Link finds itself at $8. Any asset, as I mentioned. Now, of course, you'll be wise, and you'll look at the asset, and you'll make sure, right, you're not going to open up and say, oh, hey, I'm blindly going to short the first thing I see. No, you're going to check and say, hey, how's this thing been behaving on this particular asset? Because this is a tool that you are going to use, right? It's not a money tree, as I mentioned, but didn't even see this one, so here you go. Right there's your short. Right here's your short. Right there, see the short right there. Right there again, short. Right there again, that's your short. And then, of course, this big one right there that ends up giving you the big payoff. Then yet another one, etc., etc. Oil, good old oil. Remember, oil went to negative $40, $50, etc. But look, the structure was terrible. You were getting signal after signal, and then eventually the dire dump. Bitcoin. What is this? Bitcoin daily. All right. This is back in the 2019, good old 2019 bear. Once we bottomed out, obviously before the bear, you could see the red burst. Those are your signals letting you know there's problems. The market structure better change. It better change. It better change. And it didn't, and you die, right? So that's part of that process. This was an extreme one. And then eventually it levels out. This again, there's some bullishness in seeing that you start getting bursts without making a leg lower, right? So that in itself has some bullishness, which we're not going to get into. But the reason I bought this particular chart is because I want to show you something, is that as it relates to the qualifying pivot buys, that did not occur till here. So during all of this accumulation, all of this process, you didn't have any of them until this point, which just a few days before the blow up, right? Before you had that huge, massive 25% breakout that we saw. So we got that basically about 5-6 days before the actual breakout. I can tell you that everyone and their mother on Twitter was telling you that you're stupid to long this, that you're long in resistance, and you're dumb, And I know, not to toot my own horn, but in this case, I was extremely bullish, explaining that no, they're missing something here. Here's what they're missing is, as I mentioned, this is how I trade ultimately. So that was the signal I was looking at primarily as well. And then here's what we saw. So I think I showed every single buy on a daily time frame. That's a pivot buy. Not every buy. There's a lot of buys in here. Again, these can give you all kinds of buy signals as well, or help you to make a determination of whether something is a buy signal, as well as the trending element, as well as the bursting elements that we talked about. But as far as the pivot reversal buys, that's here, here, here. I marked every single one. None of them here. Not one. There wasn't one in there. Here, 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 here. This one you had to be patient on. I know the 4-hour gave a signal right in here, but the daily right there. And that's it. I think there was a little one in here, and so far we're in between, so there's a little chop there. So that just gives you an idea. I think I did the same thing on the short side just to show you. Yeah, absolutely. How far back are we? This is 2017. Actually, I want to wrap this video up here. But here you go. Right there. Short. This is every one. I'm showing you every single qualifying pivot short. Pivot short, pivot short, pivot short, pivot short, pivot short, pivot short, pivot short. I'll zoom in on them so you can see them. Pivot short. What would you do in this situation? You go, well, I'm going to take this. I'm going to mark this level right there. My stop's probably about half an ATR, 1 ATR above it. We'll do a long 1-2 hour video on this to give people an idea. But if I'm pivot short here, yeah, I got to give myself a little room. So all of these qualify. None of them got taken out. Maybe a couple of them. I shouldn't say that. Some of them might have been bad trades. But for the most part, so far as I ran through, it doesn't look like it. These all look pretty killer. But I'm sure there was a few where you would have got stopped out. But ultimately, that's how that would have worked. Nothing through here. Not a single pivot short in there. No qualifying ones there. Not until here again. So there, 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 there. Let's see what else we got. There. Now, again, this I can show you in case you... Well, I don't need to show you. I think I have the next one on a 4-hour. But in here, you would have had a lower time frame. And let's see. Nothing, 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 nothing. And then again here, and then here. And then again, this one is where we're ranging. We're actually range bound between two signals, which is interesting. So we're going to come up on decision time pretty quickly. But ultimately, I think you can kind of see the significant benefit of those pivot reversal points. And then just for the hell of it, I did want to show you the same area here on the 4-hour, just so in case you look back and say, well, there wasn't a lot of signals. Well, it's true. We didn't see a lot. This is, what date are we? Did I go back? I probably didn't go back far enough, but that's okay. This is the recent bottom after the pandemic, which is fine. So we had on the 4-hour, because the dailies weren't going to show up for a while because price got compressed and it takes some time to recover. But on the 4-hour, you started to see those pivot buys here, here, here. Did I mark any more off? I might have marked the rest off. Yeah, I did mark them off every time we seen them. Okay, then you end up seeing it here, here, here. This one I think is a loser, absolutely. So this one would have been a loser. Here's a winner, and that one gives you right before the takeoff. Good job. And then even after the big climb up, we get another leg up here. It takes a little time. You get a little leg up. Small one, nothing big there. You probably would have stopped break even or so. Again, another nice perfect pivot on that one. They're not all going to be perfect, and your TA is going to help you with these, but that's where that is. And I don't think I went any further than that. I'm sure there's a couple more in there. But Ideally, the key with this is to have an understanding that this is a tool, right? I can't explain that any more than I have already. In that, I don't want this to say buy here, sell here. That's a bunch of nonsense to me. When it's you sitting alone with your computer, I don't see that as helping. So I'm going to give my helping hand to explain, hey, how do you use this thing and how do you use it effectively. And then I'm also going to utilize it to speak to a group of people and try to grow their knowledge of it as well, but also allow them to then have this tool so they can get into my head a little bit if that's what they want to do, right? So that's the question that everyone always asks. And they want, well, how do you do this? And can we watch you do that? Again, my trades might be 3 to 8 days on average, right? Which isn't a long time, but it's a lot longer than some people. And with that in mind, I mean, how are you going to watch my trades if most of them are 3 to 8 days, right? So this is how to kind of get in my mind in reference to that. I will do actually a lot of videos where I'm doing live trading, so I'm happy to do that, and I will show some lower time frame aspects of that as well, because I know people love that. But I do want to explain that ultimately it's going to be your tool to utilize for your trading that you're responsible for, that you want to take responsibility for, because if you make a bunch of money, you don't have to cut me a check. Don't worry, it's your money, your trade. Congratulations, you get the credit. But ultimately, I think people are going to be extremely satisfied with this particular tool and what it can do, because I've only barely scratched the surface. There's a lot more to it, especially when you get into the intricacies, especially when you get into the divergence element of all of these indicators that are involved here. And there's many, and most of them are specialized, and most of them don't exist ultimately anywhere else. So from that standpoint, you'll see some significant benefits. I'm not going to point them out right now, but maybe on some other videos we'll talk about that. The good thing is this: I'm not going to give away one of these or two of these or 5 of these or 10 of these. I'm going to give away 2 traders, people that trade and are traders and say, oh, I'm a trader and I trade often. Great. For those people that want to utilize this tool and enjoy their journey and share with me and not put blame on me or any nonsense like that, but just want a helping hand because I've been there, I'm going to give away hundreds of these, right? So if that's you and you're interested, feel free to like this, subscribe if you like, go ahead and retweet it on Twitter if you can. That'd be helpful, I guess, to get more attention. And when that time comes, which isn't very long, I'm probably going to release this in the next week or 2, if not sooner. We'll certainly make sure that we give it out to a couple hundred traders so they can go ahead and reap those benefits for themselves as well. I'm out for now. This is Mr. Anderson, True Crypto 28. Hopefully all is well. We'll talk to you soon. Stay safe.